There's a moment in human history where we stopped being just animals and started being something more. We began to look at the world not just with our eyes, but with our minds and our imaginations. Deep inside, where the light from the entrance fades, our ancestors left behind something that changed everything. They painted stories on stone, not to record, but to dream. These were not just drawings. They were the first attempts to make sense of the world, to communicate what couldn't be seen, to preserve what might be forgotten. We don't know who made these images, or why they chose to leave them behind, but in doing so, they planted the seeds of something that would define us, the power of story. And so, in the cold, dark silence of a prehistoric cave, the first stories were born. Simple, raw, and full of meaning. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just drawings on a wall. It's the first time humans tried to make sense of their world through images and symbols. These walls held more than art. They held memory, ritual, and a kind of language that predated words. They were the first stories, told without a single word. These images weren't just decoration. They were maps of the unknown, warnings, or even invitations, connecting humans to the mysteries of nature and the spirit world. To look at these walls is to glimpse the birth of human imagination, a moment when we first began to see ourselves as something more than just survival. It's not just about the past. It's about how we came to tell stories, how we began to shape our reality through images and meaning. You think stories are just what we tell each other now? But they're the oldest language we've ever spoken. The first stories were carved into caves, not written down, and they were about survival, about what it meant to be human. These stories weren't just for entertainment. They were maps. They were warnings. They were ways to remember who we were when we had no written records. Every line on those walls was a step toward becoming a culture, a community, a species that could imagine itself beyond the present. To ignore the origins of storytelling is to ignore the very roots of what makes us human. We are storytellers by nature, and without that thread, we lose something fundamental about how we understand ourselves and each other. So, yes, you should care. Not just because of the past, but because the way we tell stories now shapes how we see the future. It's a legacy that lives in every tale we share, every myth we believe, and every story we create with our own hands. We leap from the caves of Lascaux to the Sumerian ziggurats, where the first written words etched themselves into clay. Storytelling was no longer just a whisper in the dark, but a language of power, a tool to shape the world. In Egypt, the pyramids rose as monuments to the gods, but also to the stories of kings. Pharaohs were not just rulers. They were living legends, their deeds inscribed in stone for eternity. Then came the Romans, who borrowed, adapted, and spread these stories across the known world. They built libraries, translated texts, and made stories a part of daily life, not just of emperors. By the time the Middle Ages arrived, storytelling had become a bridge between the sacred and the mundane, between the known and the unknown. Monks copied manuscripts, and bards carried tales from village to village. And then, in the Renaissance, stories began to move again, not just in books, but in paintings, in theater, in the minds of thinkers who dared to imagine a world where stories could change the course of history. Imagine you're in a dark cave with only a flicker of firelight. The walls are covered in drawings, and someone is telling a story with their hands. They're not just drawing pictures. They're making you feel something. Maybe a storm, or a hero, or a dream that's never been told before. It's like when you tell a bedtime story. You make up a world, and it lives in your mind for a long time. But in the cave, it lives on the wall. That's what storytelling is. It's not just words. It's feeling, memory, and the magic of sharing something that lives forever. We begin with a quiet place, untouched by time. Stone walls, damp with age, holding the echoes of those who came before. The artist, perhaps a hunter or a gatherer, steps into the darkness, their breath visible in the cool air, their hands steady with purpose. They reach for the charcoal, a dark stick made from burned wood, its tip worn smooth from years of use and countless gestures. With deliberate motion, they press the stick against the wall, leaving behind a mark, a single line, a whisper of intention, a beginning. That mark is the first step in a journey that will shape how humans see the world, how they remember, and how they tell themselves who they are. The first step was the creation of the image, but the second step is the act of making that image mean something. The cave artists didn't just draw a bison, they made the bison a character, a symbol, a memory. To give meaning, the artist needed to connect the image to something else, perhaps a ritual, a journey, a time of abundance or scarcity. This is where the story begins, not in words, but in the weight of the image itself. The image was a doorway, a bridge between the tangible world and the abstract world of meaning. The artist had to trust that the image could carry the weight of a narrative, that it could be read, remembered, and passed on. This is where the act of storytelling transformed from mere representation into something deeper, something that could be told, retold, and believed in across generations. The mechanism of storytelling in the cave was not just about making an image. It was about making the image matter. It was about giving it a voice, a purpose, a place in the world. The clever twist comes when the storyteller introduces a shift, a deliberate misdirection that plants the seed of doubt in the listener's mind. It's a moment of tension, a breath held before the truth is revealed. This twist isn't just a trick. It's a way to engage the mind, to make the listener question what they've seen, what they've been told. It's the beginning of understanding, the first crack in the wall of certainty. The twist is often subtle, a change in detail, a shift in perspective, a repetition with a new meaning. It's the storyteller's way of saying, look again, listen closer. This is the moment when the listener begins to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. The twist is the first step in letting imagination take over. In the silence after the twist, something shifts in the air, in the mind. The story is no longer just a story. It's a possibility, a question, an invitation to see the world differently. Beneath the dust and time, the cave walls hum with a story older than words. The rock itself is a memory, carved by hands that reached for meaning in the dark. These markings are not just art, but a neural echo, a map of the brain firing as humans first imagined themselves into the world. The act of drawing is the first step toward becoming a storyteller. The science of this moment is silent, but it's everywhere. In the way the brain wires itself to create meaning, in the way memory is encoded into pigment and stone. The cave walls are not passive. They are a kind of mirror, reflecting back the human mind's earliest attempts to make sense of chaos, to create order, to tell a story. In the science of these walls, we find the origins of something vast, a species that turned its gaze inward and began to see itself as a story, not just a creature. Imagine standing in a dark cave, hands brushing against the cool, damp stone. You're not alone, but the silence is thick, like the air just before a storm. Your breath fogs the air, and your eyes flicker between the darkness and the faint glow of your torch. The cave is alive, not with sound, but with the weight of what has come before. You draw a hand across the wall, and it feels like the surface of memory, rough, ancient, and humming with stories that you haven't yet heard. You don't know what you're drawing, but you know it will be something that others will see, something that will bridge the gap between the silent and the spoken. It's not perfect, not even close, but it's enough. Because what you're creating isn't just a picture. It's a promise, a link between the past and the future. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You've probably never thought about it, but the way we write today is a revolution that began in the dark ages of human history. It started with a single stroke on a clay tablet, a decision that changed everything. Imagine a world where knowledge didn't live in books, but in memory, passed down like a flame from one mind to the next. That's what life was like before writing, and it was fragile. Then came the moment that separated us from the rest of the animal kingdom. The ability to record thoughts, to preserve ideas across time, and to outlive our own fleeting existence. Writing didn't just record words. It transformed how we think, how we build, how we remember. It was a silent revolution, and it started in the silence of the ancient world. So the next time you pick up a pen or open a book, remember that you're continuing a tradition that began in darkness and shaped the light of human civilization. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just ink on paper. It's the moment when humans first realized they could capture thought, memory, and meaning in something tangible. We're talking about the birth of a new way to communicate, one that could outlive the speaker and outlive the moment itself. It was a shift from the ephemeral to the enduring. It's the first step toward a global conversation, a way to pass down knowledge, to preserve history, and to shape the future. It's not just writing, it's thinking on paper. And with that, we entered a new era, one where the written word could bridge distances, shape civilizations, and redefine what it means to be human. You might not realize it, but every time you read a book or scroll through a message, you're engaging with a legacy that began in the dim light of ancient caves and flourished through the hands of scribes. Writing is more than just lines on paper. It's the foundation of how we remember, argue, love, and build our shared world. It's how we outlive the moment. The written word is a mirror that reflects our thoughts, a weapon that shapes our history, and a bridge that connects us across time and space. When you write, you're not just expressing yourself. You're participating in a vast, invisible conversation that has shaped every civilization that ever existed. So yes, you should secretly care about this, because the written word is not just a tool. It's a testament to the human spirit, and it's still shaping your world. Every day. In the earliest days, the written word was a flicker of light in the darkness of human memory. Carved into stone, painted onto walls, and etched into bones, it was a way to preserve the voices of the past. The transition from oral tradition to writing was not a sudden leap, but a slow, deliberate evolution. Each symbol was a step toward a more precise way of capturing thought and meaning. As the written word spread across continents, it carried with it the weight of civilization, laws, religions, and the dreams of empires. It was both a tool and a weapon. By the time the first books were printed, writing had become a bridge between generations, a way to pass on knowledge, culture, and identity across time and space. Today, the written word is everywhere, on screens, in books, on the walls of cities. It is the foundation of our modern world, and yet its roots lie deep in the silent, sacred act of recording the human voice. Writing started when people wanted to remember things that mattered. They used sticks and stones to draw stories, then made symbols to say what they saw. These symbols were like a secret language. Only a few could read them. But they helped keep stories alive, even when people forgot. Writing is like a magic box. You put words in, and it holds them safe, so you can share them with anyone, even when you're not around. The written word is more than just letters. It's how we talk to the past, and how we make sure our thoughts don't get lost in the wind. So writing is like a whisper that never stops. It carries your ideas far, and keeps them safe, even when you're not there. Before the first line was ever written, there had to be a purpose. A need to record, to remember, to communicate across time and space. Writing wasn't just an act, it was a decision, a choice to shape the future with words. The setup began with the material. Whether it was papyrus, parchment, stone, or later paper, the choice of medium shaped what could be written and how it could last. It was not just a surface, but a foundation. The scribe or writer sat in stillness, their mind focused, their hand steady. This was not just a task. It was a ritual, a way of making the intangible real. Every stroke, every mark was deliberate. The setup was not just about the materials. It was about the mindset. Writing was not an accident. It was an act of intention. This is where it all began. The setup was the first step, the silent promise that something meaningful was about to be made. The written word did not just appear. It was prepared, nurtured, and given form. The mechanism begins with the scribe, a human hand guided by the mind, carving into clay, stone, or papyrus. Each stroke is a deliberate act of memory, a transfer of thought from the mind to the medium. The scribe doesn't just write. They think aloud. Every symbol is a thought made visible, a moment frozen in time. This is how ideas are preserved, how knowledge escapes the fleeting nature of speech. The medium matters. Papyrus is soft and gives, stone is hard and permanent. Each material shapes the act of writing, and in turn, the way we remember and share the written word. This is not just writing. It is the first act of preservation. The scribe becomes both the creator and the guardian of thought, a bridge between the ephemeral and the eternal. The mechanism of writing is simple, yet profound. A hand, a tool, a surface, and a human mind. It is through this act that knowledge is not just recorded, but remembered, passed on, and transformed. The clever twist lies in the way writing preserves thought beyond the moment it was formed. Unlike speech, which fades with the breath, writing anchors the mind in time, allowing ideas to outlive their creators. This act of preservation wasn't just physical. It was a way of thinking itself. Writing turned language into something that could be examined, stored, and passed down, altering how we saw reality. It allowed for the first time the possibility of a conversation across time. A person could speak to someone who had never lived, and that person could reply in kind, across vast distances and years. This shift wasn't just technical. It was philosophical. Writing transformed thought into something that could be controlled, questioned, and shared, setting the stage for all future knowledge and power. In essence, writing was not just a tool. It was a mirror. It reflected the complexity of human thought and, in doing so, shaped how we understood ourselves and the world. Beneath the ink and the parchment, there's a quiet science, a rhythm of atoms and energy that makes writing possible. Every stroke of the pen is a collision of particles, a fleeting dance of matter and motion. The brain, too, is a kind of machine, a biological engine that transforms thought into language. Neurons fire in patterns, shaping words before they ever touch the page. In every script, there's a science of structure, of syntax, of spacing, of how meaning is built from small, precise elements. It's a language of patterns, a code that humans have learned to read. And in the modern world, this science has only deepened, with typography, with code, with the very architecture of information. The written word is no longer just a medium, but a force that shapes reality itself. Imagine a group of people standing in a circle, each holding a stone. They pass them around, trying to make a mark on the ground. It's slow, messy, and full of mistakes, but it's the start of something powerful. One person, frustrated, drops their stone and picks up a stick. They start drawing lines in the dirt, more clearly, more deliberately. The group watches, then follows suit, each finding their own tool. Eventually, someone brings a piece of bark, and with it, the idea of carrying the mark away. It's no longer tied to the earth, but to the mind. The written word becomes a portable, personal, and permanent idea. This is how writing began, not with precision, but with a shared need to preserve thought beyond the moment. It's a simple, almost absurd image, but it captures the essence of what writing does. It turns thought into something that can live on. So in the end, writing is like a child drawing in the dirt, imperfect, but full of potential. It's the dumbest of analogies, but it's also the most accurate. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. Imagine a world where knowledge was locked away, only accessible to a privileged few. The books were rare, expensive, and guarded like treasure. Then, one day, a machine changed everything. It didn't just copy words, it multiplied them, spreading ideas faster than ever before. This wasn't just a tool. It was a revolution. A silent, mechanical uprising against ignorance, one page at a time. The printing press didn't just make books more available. It made knowledge belong to everyone. And that, in a way, changed the course of human history. So what exactly are we talking about? The printing press wasn't just a tool. It was a revolution in thought. Before it, knowledge was locked away in the hands of a few, guarded by monks and kings. Imagine trying to read a book without knowing how to write, or without anyone to help you. That was the reality for most people before the printing press made books affordable and accessible. The printing press gave people a voice. It allowed ideas to spread like wildfire, challenging the old order and giving birth to new ways of thinking about the world. It wasn't just about books. The press changed how people saw themselves, their society, and their place in the world. It was the first step toward a more informed and connected public. You might not realize it, but the spread of knowledge is more than just a history lesson. It shapes the world you live in, every day. Every time you read a news article or follow a social media thread, you're standing on the shoulders of a long line of people who fought to make information accessible. You might be watching this video, but you're also part of a legacy that stretches back centuries, one that values the power of the written word. The printing press was a quiet revolution, and its effects are still felt in the way we access, share, and understand the world. So if you're still wondering why this matters, ask yourself, who gets to decide what we know, and who gets to decide what we believe? In the early 15th century, a single monk in a quiet monastery spent years copying sacred texts by hand. His work was slow, painstaking, and limited to a few hundred pages at most. Then came Johannes Gutenberg. He was not a scholar, but a visionary with a machine that could change the world. His press was a marvel of engineering, a fusion of art and science. The press spread like wildfire. By the late 15th century, cities across Europe had their own presses. Books on anatomy, astronomy, and politics reached new audiences, challenging old beliefs and inspiring new ones. In the decades that followed, the press fueled the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Scientific Revolution. It was the first step toward a world where knowledge was no longer the privilege of the few. And so the printing press became more than a machine. It became a revolution, a bridge, a weapon. It was the first tool to democratize knowledge, and the first to challenge the power of those who had long controlled it. Imagine you're in a big room, and there's a big machine that makes copies of books really fast. Before that, books were made by hand, and only a few people could read them. This machine made books so much faster, so more people could get them. It was like having a copy machine in the middle of the 1400s. This wasn't just about books. It was about ideas. People could now read about faraway places, new inventions, and even argue about what was right and wrong. The printing press didn't just spread knowledge. It gave people power. Knowledge is like a seed. Once it's in the right hands, it can grow into something powerful. Before the first word is printed, the press must be carefully set up. This is where the foundation of knowledge begins, with the arrangement of type, ink, and paper. Each letter is a small but vital piece of the puzzle. The typesetter must choose the right characters, ensuring they fit together perfectly, like a mosaic of meaning. Once the line is complete, it is transferred to the composing stick and then locked into the frame, a process that demands both art and precision. The frame is then placed on the press, where the ink is carefully applied to the raised surfaces of the type, a step that requires both care and confidence. With the type set and inked, the press is ready for the next step. This is the moment when the physical world of knowledge begins to take shape. The press is more than wood and metal. It's a marriage of precision and purpose. At its heart, the movable type system allows individual letters to be arranged and rearranged, each one a piece of a greater whole. The typesetter arranges these letters like a puzzle, placing them in the correct order to form words and sentences. This process, though meticulous, is the first true step toward the spread of knowledge. The frame is then placed on the press, and with a single, decisive motion, the press is activated. The inked type is pressed against the paper, transferring the message from metal to parchment. Each impression is a moment of transformation. Knowledge, once confined to the hands of a few, now taking form in the hands of many. It is in this step that the power of the press begins to reveal itself. The clever twist comes when the ink is applied, not just to the printing plate, but to the entire surface of the press. This allows for a more even and precise transfer, reducing smudges and ensuring every letter is crisp and clear. The press then applies pressure, but not just any pressure. It's a calculated force that balances the weight of the press with the delicate balance of the paper, ensuring that the ink adheres perfectly without tearing the material. The result is a printed page that feels like it was made by hand, yet it was produced by a machine. This is the true genius of the printing press, its ability to balance efficiency with artistry. In this moment, the press becomes more than a tool. It becomes a bridge between the mind and the world, a vessel for ideas that can be touched, held, and shared by many. This is the clever twist, the mechanical precision that allows for the mass production of knowledge, while still preserving the human touch that makes it meaningful. The printing press wasn't just a machine, it was a revolution in the way knowledge was produced and consumed. Every press was a fusion of art and science, a precise mechanical dance between ink, paper, and time. The press relied on principles of pressure, friction, and gravity. The wooden platen pressed the paper against the movable type, transferring ink with a force that felt like the weight of 1,000 thoughts made visible. The science of the press was rooted in the physics of materials, the stiffness of the paper, the elasticity of the ink, the density of the type. Each element had to be balanced like a recipe for knowledge. This process required precision, repetition, and trust. A trust that a single sheet could carry the weight of 1,000 minds, and that millions could read it, all at once. In the quiet hum of the press, there was a kind of alchemy, turning the invisible work of the mind into the tangible form of the page, and in doing so, making knowledge something that could be held, read, and shared. Imagine a world where knowledge is locked away in a single room, guarded by a single person. Only those who know the password can enter and read the books. This is how knowledge worked before the printing press. Now imagine that same room being copied and sent to every home, every village, every town. No password needed, just a book in your hands. That's what the printing press did for knowledge. It's like taking a single candle and lighting hundreds of others with it. One flame becomes many. Knowledge spreads, not just stored in one place. This is the power of the printing press, not in its mechanics, but in its message. It said, knowledge is not a privilege, it is a right. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. You know the feeling when you close your eyes and try to remember something, but it slips through your fingers like sand? It's not just forgotten, it's erased, like the past is being rewritten in real time. We used to remember things the way we lived them, through stories, through photographs, through the echoes of voices and the weight of touch. But now, memory feels like something we download, something we store. What happens when the technology that helps us remember fails us? When it crashes, or gets hacked, or just forgets? We're not just storing data, we're storing ourselves. We think of memory as something we have, but maybe it's something we're becoming. Something fragile, something shared, something that might not survive the next few years, let alone the next few centuries. This is not just about technology. It's about how we choose to remember, how we choose to live, and how we choose to be remembered in a world that's always looking ahead. We're talking about more than just storing photos or videos. We're talking about the way we hold on to the past, the way we shape our identity through memory, and how technology is now the canvas on which we paint our history. In the past, memory was a private, intimate act. Now, it's a public, distributed one. We don't just remember. We record, share, and curate. Our memories are no longer just in our heads, but in the cloud, on screens, in databases. This isn't just about technology. It's about how we choose to live, to remember, to let go. The question isn't whether we can remember forever, but whether we want to, and whether we're ready to lose the human part of memory in the process. We are at the crossroads of memory and machine. The future of remembering is not just about what we keep, but what we choose to let go of, and how we carry the weight of the past in an ever-growing digital world. You might think your memories are safe, but they're not. Every day, your brain is losing some of them. Forgotten, overwritten, or just faded. And what if the stories you carry are the only thing that makes you who you are? Digital memory is more than just storing facts. It's about preserving the texture of your life, the moments that made you feel, laugh, or cry. It's the quiet details that make your past real. If you don't care about your digital memory, who will? What if the next generation only knows your life through fragments, curated by algorithms and lost in the noise? You don't have to be a historian to care. You're the author of your own life, and the tools you use to record it shape how you see yourself. You're not just storing memories, you're shaping identity. Secretly, you already do care. You just haven't realized how much. Every click, every like, every search is a silent act of preservation. You're already building your digital self, whether you're aware of it or not. We used to remember by touch. A stone, a shell, a scar on the skin. Memory was not written down, it was carried, passed from hand to hand, from one generation to the next. Then came the written word, carved into wood, etched into bone, pressed into clay. The first libraries were not books. They were the minds of those who would learn to store knowledge in symbols. The invention of the printing press was more than a tool. It was a revolution. Suddenly, knowledge could spread like wildfire. But it still required effort to read, to remember, to hold. Then came the photograph, a way to preserve moments not just in memory, but in time. The first cameras were like windows into the past, allowing us to see what had been and what had passed. And now, we live in the age of the digital archive. Every memory is a file, every experience a cloud. We no longer remember, we store. We no longer carry, we upload. You know how you remember your birthday? With a cake, a gift, maybe a song? But what if you could remember it like a movie? That's what digital memory is. Saving your life like a story, so you can watch it anytime. Right now, we remember by writing things down, or telling stories to people. But in the future, we might store our memories in a special place, like a library for your brain. Imagine you can look back and see your first day at school, or your first kiss, not just as a feeling, but as a real moment. Clear, bright, and right there for you to watch. Digital memory isn't just about remembering things. It's about holding on to who you are and what you've been through, like a picture of your life saved forever. But here's the thing. Even if we save all our memories, they're still just data. The real magic is how we feel when we remember. The love, the pain, the joy. That's what makes us human. We begin with the foundation, a quiet room, a person sitting at a desk, surrounded by books, papers, and a small device. This is where the process starts, where memory is captured and prepared for the future. The device is not just a camera. It's a bridge between the past and the future. It records not just images, but the context, the emotions, the subtle details that make a moment real. This is the first step in a process that will change how we hold on to our past. It's not just about what we see, but how we feel, how we understand the world through memory and technology. In this moment, we are not just capturing an image. We are laying the groundwork for a future where memory is not just stored, but truly lived, even when we are not there to remember. The second step begins with the data being transformed into a digital fingerprint, a unique identifier that captures the essence of what was seen, heard, or felt. This fingerprint is then stored in a vast network of servers, where it becomes part of a growing archive of human experience, preserved in binary and time. These connections are not just technical. They are attempts to mimic the way we remember, by linking ideas, emotions, and experiences in a way that feels familiar. And so, in this digital realm, memory is not just stored. It is shaped, reinterpreted, and reassembled, like fragments of a story told across time. It is a quiet revolution in how we hold on to the past, how we carry it forward, and how we define ourselves through the echoes of what we've seen and felt. The clever twist lies not in the data itself, but in how we choose to shape and interpret it. Memory is not just about storage. It's about context, meaning, and the stories we build around it. When we digitize memory, we're not just copying the past. We're creating a new kind of archive, one that is malleable and layered with intention. It's like writing a letter to yourself, but in code. The clever twist is that digital memory is not a passive record. It's an evolving dialogue between past and present. It allows us to revisit moments not as they were, but as we understand them now. In this way, memory becomes a living thing, shaped by us, reshaped by time, and finally, redefined by the technology we choose to trust with our past. Beneath the glow of our screens, something ancient is being rewritten. The human brain, a tangled web of neurons, is now being mapped, decoded, and reimagined as a data stream. Neuroscientists are tracing the paths of memory, trying to understand how a single experience can become a lifelong imprint. It's like decoding the language of the soul. The science is advancing faster than we can grasp. We're standing at the edge of a new kind of human experience, one where memory is no longer just remembered, but engineered. But what does it mean to remember if memory is no longer our own? We are becoming something new, a species in transition, caught between the past and the future of thought. We remember the way a phone remembers a number. It doesn't care if you've called it once or 1,000 times. It just holds it, waiting for the right moment to ring. Our minds are like that phone. We store things, but not always with care. Some memories fade, some are lost, and others stay forever, even when they shouldn't. The difference is that we're not just storing data. We're storing ourselves, our past, our pain, our joy, our regrets. It's all there, waiting to be recalled, sometimes in ways we never intended. Digital memory is like a phone. It's precise, it's silent, and it doesn't ask questions. But it doesn't understand what it's holding. It just holds it. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not meant to remember everything. Maybe we're meant to let go, to forget, to be shaped by what remains. So here's the analogy. We are the phone. We hold the numbers, we store the memories, and we wait for the right moment to ring. But we are also more than the phone. We are the one who answers. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.